Boston responders received an automatic alarm at 50 Congress Street. As they pulled out of the station, the box was called, indicating a probable fire. First-in crews arrived quickly. The high-rise was only a few blocks from the station. And once on scene, they were greeted by an onlooker.
About 100 yards from the building, a gentleman was in the middle of the street, waving his hands, pointing down an alleyway. And until we pulled up, and he was yelling, "Fire, there's fire out of the window." And then as you looked up, you could see the fire.
Well, on an initial report, what that told me was that it was probably a rubbish fire. Since it was early in the morning and they put the rubbish out at night, they do a lot of early morning rubbish collection. His next statement was, "It's coming out the 5th floor windows." Well, this rapidly made a different impact on the whole situation here. Knowing that the building was a couple of 100 feet deep, we drove right around the block to the rear of the building. However, a little bit misinformed, it was halfway down the building in what he termed the back of the building, but it was just kind of like an inset of the building. So as I went down the alleyway to take a look, I saw the fire reflecting off of other windows in the building and also the building across the street. So as I got down the alleyway about 120, 140 feet, I looked up. We had fire, heavy fire issuing from 2 windows on the 5th floor. At this time, knowing that this was eventually going to go to a multiple alarm in an occupied, an office building, I transmitted a working fire to the firearm office, basically to let the rest of the people know that we had a confirmed fire in this building and we were going to do some work.
Looking down this narrow alleyway, I could see the reflection of the fire off the windows on the exposure 4 side, which I knew the fire was down. It was reported on the 5th floor. And I ran down the alleyway and I looked up and I could see it venting out the windows. And I called the chauffeur and I told him we could back the tower ladder into this narrow alleyway that we were in. We'll back up the alleyway because we had snowbanks on both sides. And I said to Bobby Bullock, "Come on, we can do this thing. Get over it. We're going to get down this alleyway with this tower ladder no matter what." So he pulled the rig forward, back down the alleyway, and here we were, right position, just the way I wanted the truck, where I knew I couldn't get to the roof where my normal position was. So I assumed the outside vent position.
But great positioning wouldn't solve all of the obstacles in the ladder's way.
So Bob backed the tower ladder down the alleyway. I got up into the bucket. As we were backing down, we had to go over snowbanks. It was a very cold morning. I'd say it was about 15 degrees out. There was snow on the ground, but not a large amount that we did have this year. And I looked up, I could see a picket fence, but in the back of my mind was, this is a professional building. It's a high-rise building. Lawyers normally go to work early to work on things before their normal workday starts. And I'm thinking to myself about lawyers being in these offices. We got to get up there. And I had a picket fence that was running along there. I looked at the picket fence. I'm in there, I'm saying, life comes before picket fences. If I have to go through this waterway that's there, the chiefs can yell at me later, but I'm going after human life. That's my main objective right now, life and property. If I damage the rig, then they can scream at me, but that's what I'm going with, because we're not going to use the tower. We're not going to use the tower as a waterway at this job, at this high-rise fire that we're at. So I put the aerial straight up in the air. Then I swung it over, which was very narrow, where you had an alcove that set in there. And I could see the picket fence. It wasn't scaring me, but I had to get to the fire floor, the 5th floor. So I raised the bucket adjoining the window where the fire was venting out on the 5th floor. I called firefighter Bullock on a handy talkie and told him to get up here, that we were going in.
Meanwhile, interior attack teams were facing their own obstacles. First and foremost, a lack of standpipes within the building.
They come out of the building with the 3 donut rolls and drop them in the street because they basically were useless. And they said they're going to have to drag a line up to the fire floor. And the amount of attack line we had in the bed wasn't enough to reach the fire floor because of the building so deep where they had to go. So I had to take part of the reverse line we carry in the back of the piece that I was hooking up to the hydrant, and I had to give them that and hook it onto the big line. So I ended up giving them basically about 450 feet of 2.5-inch attack line to the fire, and that left me with, I basically had no line to hook up to the hydrant. I believe another company used our donut rolls also to run their line up the front door. So I had about 200 feet of 1.75 left, and that doesn't hook up to a high pressure hydrant. So I got a water supply from Engine 8, which had a hydrant on the other street. Which also hampered operation was there was no hydrants on Congress Street. They were on the side streets, and I was parked on Congress. So everything was sort of ad lib. When we found out there were no standpipes, everything changes. You just do what you can to get the water, get the water no matter what, and you know. Engine 10 dragged the line up to the fire floor, and they dragged about the 450 feet up, and they asked for the water over channel 2, the fire ground. So I charged the line, and I gave them the tank, 750 gallons, and it got down to the last light, the last quarter of a tank, and firefighter Brian Heelan from Engine 8, I think he saw that I didn't have any water because so much was going on. He asked me if I needed some. I said, yeah, can he give me right away? And he could. So I took a 2.5-inch feeder from a high pressure hydrant directly into the pump, and then I had no problem for the rest of the fire.
When we were on the floor looking for the standpipes, I had gone up to the 5th floor by myself to take a look and see what we had. I only got a few feet down the hallway, and due to the tremendous amount of heat and everything, and the ceiling starting to drop, I retreated. But I had noticed the location of the room of origin and everything else, so I had an idea of what the hallway looked like. When we got our line back up to the 5th floor, and the guys were pretty much tired by now. You know, it's a lot of work getting a 2.5-inch line up to the 5th floor. So as we donned our face pieces, I had the officer on the tower company call for our water, and we started to advance down the hall, or so we thought. At this point, the fire had met us right at the stairway. I remember thinking at this time that if this fire gets by us beyond the stairway, we're going to lose this whole floor. Not even realizing at that point that this was an open stairway, and if it got by us, chances were it was going to go up that stairway, we might lose the rest of the building. Fortunately, my pump operator had water instantaneously, it seemed to us. The water was coming as soon as we called for it. Bill Twigg was my nozzle man at the time. Billy's got 25 years on the job. And as soon as he got the water, we started working the line and driving the fire back down the hallway. It never did get beyond the stairway. So I kind of felt relaxed and relieved, and I knew this fire was going to be contained probably to the area of origin through my experiences of what I had seen before. It was a big sigh of relief when we got that water and figured that we were going to be able to stop it there. Naturally, many other lines were run at this fire. Some lines were run over ladders. Other lines were run up the front staircase, and then another line up the back staircase. Being on an engine company, we weren't dealing with the actual rescue problems at hand, but the ladder companies and the rescue, they all were at work looking for people who were already in this building, even at 7:30 in the morning.
I vented the window, and that heavy black smoke and heat came out, and it was a drop. It was a drop into the lawyer's office, because I remember I jumped in. I told him to throw the mask into me and get in here. So the two of us were in the office, and we put the masks on. I says, all right, Bob. While I was putting the mask on, I told him, feel the door. Let's make a quick primary search of this room to see if anybody's in here. We knew we were in an attorney's office, too, because the law books, I could see the law books that went to the floor on his shelves. And as I was putting on the mask, he was making a quick primary search. He felt the door and told me, man, this is red hot. I says, all right, don't touch it, wait. I went over to the door now. I says, do a secondary. And I opened the door, and the fire was rolling along this, was rolling along the ceiling and along the floor, which you very rarely see it going along the floor. Then I said, geez, this building runs about, at the time I'm saying to myself, 200 feet. This is a long hallway. Well, we can't go out into this because there's no fireman that can walk through fire, no matter what you're wearing. Shut the door. So firefighter Bullock said to me, now what? I said, we'll do a quick secondary so we know at least this office is clear. Now, waiting a couple of minutes, I could hear water hitting the ceiling. I says, well, they're coming. Now we cracked the door, and they were coming down the hallway with the line. We crawled out of the office we were in and went into the adjoining office and made a quick primary because we were going through heavy heat and smoke. There were wires hanging in the hallway from ductwork that fell down. There were a lot of obstacles in this hallway. And then 10 Engine was pushing their way down this hallway. They were doing an excellent job pushing their way into the heavy body of fire that was there.
And then where I was parked in the street, the people who were trapped in the 10th floor were right above me. I could see the guy who was hanging on the windowsill. He was right above the pump, saying, I hope he doesn't jump because he's going to land on me.
Okay, we arrived on scene, and there was a maintenance man or a security guard in the lobby saying there were people on the 10th floor that couldn't get down the staircase. So we proceeded to the 10th floor. On our way up to the 5th floor. From 5th floor up, we had heavy smoke in the stairway. All the way to the 10th. They were real narrow. Somebody going up and somebody coming down would have to squeeze by. You know, you'd be tight. So we got to the 10th floor, and we had our masks on, and we started, you know, trying to locate these people, and we found them in a corner office. And they had the door closed in the corner office. There was some smoke in the corner office, but it wasn't, you know, really that bad. But the lady was really worried about getting down. And I called on the radio to the deputy out in front of the building to see, you know, what was going on and if we should take these people down. Because sometimes these things don't develop, and you can just stay with them until the fire's knocked down. But she wanted to get out of there. So we decided we'd take them down, and I explained to her we're going to share the mask, and if I tapped her on the shoulder to take a breath, and I was just going to take a breath, and I'd give it right back to her. And we started going down the hallway, and it was really heavy smoke. To get down to the staircase, I tapped her on the shoulder, I took a deep breath of the mask and gave it to her, and we started going down, and I needed another breath of air, and I tried to get it, and she gave it up, but she really didn't want to. So after that, I just put it on her head permanently, and we went down from the like the 9th all the way to the 4th floor.
Although a successful response, there were a lot of lessons learned that day.
Oh, always keep you cool. Sometimes your SOPs or rules don't always fit the situation. You should improvise if you have to. Just get the job done, put the fire out, get the water on, no matter what. And every time you go on a bell or a false alarm, take a look at that building, because maybe might go back to ring us, because we have been to that building numerous times. And it never dawned on me, and that was one mistake I made. I never really paid attention, saying, gee, you just assumed that the standpipe was there. And now you know. Now every time I go on a run, I always look and try to find the standpipes.
I just kind of more aware that there, you know, like you go to these high-rises, there could be people there that you would just take for granted that would get out on their own, would head for the stairway, that kind of know what they're supposed to do, but the minute the smoke is there, that they just, everything goes different for them. And I find that they're more in a panic thing. I just figured, you know, I'm used to it. I don't get panicked. These people, now I've actually seen it. You know, they panic. It surprised me.
Don't get complacent. You can go to a building 27 times. The 28th time, you may have a job.
They did an outstanding job in confining the fire to the 5th floor. They did a magnificent job in rescuing people that were trapped and hanging out the windows when they arrived on the 10th floor. They got those people down to a safe area and out of the building. I can't say enough about them. Very proud of them. Just goes without saying that they did an outstanding job at this incident.
Just don't take anything for granted. If it's a routine call, it could just change just like that. That's what I've learned. I mean, that's the most thing I learned about it, because it was just, to me, it was a routine building, you know. It was just, nothing like that ever happens. And it wasn't. It was altogether different. And stay in